a style that we really can play off each other in a planetarium. It's always a joy working with her. So I'm kind of proud to bring her down here and have her work with us tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, from the Hayden Planetarium, a colleague, let's say I'm proud to have her here, Irene Pease. Go ahead and take it away, Irene.
Welcome, Irene.
Hi, oh my God, Mike. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me here. I know I was really excited when Ted first asked me to come and just share a little bit about what the Amateur Astronomers Association does. So again, I'm with the president of the Amateur Astronomers Association in New York City. We predate Hayden. So we're 93 years old, and basically a lot of the founders of the association wound up founding and starting up Hayden Planetarium. And so they used to be like very mixed, very much connected at the beginning of Hayden. And we've kind of gone our separate ways, but we still collaborate on some things. So yeah, so it's been a pleasure working with Ted, and he'd asked me about, maybe sharing some of the things that we do. So yeah, looking forward to just sharing some of that with you tonight. So I have like a gazillion different screen share things. Let me just start off, I had slides somewhere. Okay, I'm not gonna like full screen it because then it, I don't know, explodes on my face. So this was the original title that I just stuck with, Astronomizing Around New York City. Astronomizing is just a word I like to use. And yes, we do a lot of astronomy, a lot of outreach, really is kind of what our association is known for, among other things, around New York City. So just looking out kind of over the skyline-ish, I've observed in all 5 boroughs, day and night, not day and night in all of them, but near one of the roofs, off of one of the roofs of the World Trade Center, and Midtown and Uptown. Here's the Brooklyn Bridge. I've observed at Brooklyn Bridge Park. Way over here is Verrazano. I've observed way out there, and I live way over here. We're going to see that in a little bit. But yeah, there's a lot that we do all over the city. So originally, I was going to talk about just these 3 things, just kind of what we do, what the Amateur Astronomers Association does as a group, and just talk about different things we do for outreach. But we don't do any of that right now. And I'm like, I don't think you would want to either. It's not really safe. So I'm gonna kind of abbreviate that part of my talk and talk a little bit more then about what we are doing, like our transition to online, just share with you what that was like. I know I heard from Ted, like some of the things that y'all have transitioned to. So I wanna share like what we've done. And then also maybe just a few minutes on like what we are possibly anticipating moving forward. Again, just sharing like our thoughts, because the future is full of question marks right now for a lot of us. And let me just pull up a chat, so feel free to ask questions as I roll along here. But yeah, so yeah, so we'll just plug through here. So one of the things that we're really known for around the city is our public observing sites. So we have a lot of sites, as you can see. These are, I think it's pretty much all of our main sites. So all of these sites meet regularly, either weekly or monthly or some combination thereof throughout the regular season, spring through fall. We do have sites in all 5 boroughs. You'll note that most of them are in Manhattan or Brooklyn. That kind of also reflects our membership. So it's like, kind of horse and, or maybe more like a chicken and egg thing. Of our New York City members, 50% are in Manhattan, 25% are in Brooklyn, and then the other 25% are split among the other 3 boroughs. So yeah, definitely a lot of sites in Manhattan, because that's where a lot of people are, and a lot of sites in Brooklyn. But we have, at least one in each borough. So 2 different types of observing that we do. I know you have your facilities out at Muddy Run, which again, kind of bummed that I didn't get to see it. Maybe next year, or sometime in the future, I can actually pop over and be there in person. But talking about like bright and populated versus dark and empty. So we are kind of on the bright and populated end of the spectrum. Most of our sites are set where they are because there's a lot of foot traffic. So we do get a lot of people who show up to our observing sites because they know that we're going to be there, but we get even more people showing up who are just wandering by because it's New York and it's full, you know, foot traffic. Some of our most popular sites that people actually seek us out are on the High Line and up at Lincoln Center. Those are both weekly sites during regular times. One of the brightest sites, arguably Lincoln Center or the High Line, but I think the very brightest site is my site where I'm site chair. That's at the Brooklyn Museum Plaza. So that's this little telescope right in here, right by Prospect Park. That's right by where I live. So I just roll my telescope right up the block to it. But we are literally under floodlights. So not dark skies. We're not like seeing, we're not seeing deep sky objects much. Most of what we do on all of our sites, except for, I'm going to mention 2 darker ones, is planetary stuff. But just like the Mistress of the Universe was saying, like, look at the moon, it's amazing. Like, people love to see Saturn. Like, if you haven't seen Saturn, like, it's amazing. Jupiter and its moons, that's actually my favorite planet to observe. So for people like the public who've never seen any of that in a telescope, who've never even looked through a telescope before, maybe, like, they're just gonna be blown away. Like, the event where I set up the telescopes for the Brooklyn Museum Plaza site, it coincides with an event in the museum. So there's a ton of people there. It's a Saturday night. There's a whole scene. There might be drinking involved, and we hear all kinds of expletives. Like, people get really excited. It's a hoot. So anywhere that you're able to just, you know, set up a telescope, people are gonna, you know, be around. If there's foot traffic, people will inevitably stop by because they're curious, or at least they used to. So we have the bright sites. We have a couple of darker sites out of Floyd Bennett Field. That's, you know, just across from the Rockaways there, basically. And then Great Kills, which is right in the state park. So those are more close to the water. Those are fairly dark for New York City. You still have a lot of sky glow, but you can start to see some more of the deep sky objects at those locations. There are a couple of our observers who are really good at picking out like a couple globular clusters and open clusters and, you know, some binary stars from Lincoln Center, even under those bright lights. But yeah, so we do have the slightly darker sites, but those are like way out of the way. There's no public transit that gets people there. So people have to drive in, which if you've been to New York City, you know, a lot of us don't drive or don't have cars here. And so it's like a destination. So we get like more school groups and scout groups that show up at those. And then just some of our regular observers who don't want to have to drive all the way out of the city to get to a much darker site. So that's a lot of what we do regularly. Just a couple other things. We also have like some special observing events, a couple really big star fests that we have in some of the big parks and some of the cemeteries as well, where we have like prizes and speakers and a whole mess of telescopes. We'll have a couple dozen telescopes at some of these. We also do some special events. We do a Tanabata. We coordinate with some other cultural institutions on that. And also we started doing a Diwali festival every year. We have food and fun, and it's a hoot. So those are all public, free, open to the public, just whoever's around, or people can plan to show up. And then just some of our other public events. We have lectures, so I guess kind of like, I'm guessing, Ted, like what you have at Muddy Run, where you have some presentation and then observing. We don't have an observatory yet. Fingers crossed, we're working on it actually. But we have pre-public lectures, and those we rent out space at the American Museum of Natural History. We also have like Astro Answer talks, and we do, you know, public events like World Science Festival or other things, other events like that that the other institutions around the city might have. Another thing we do, and I'm just going to click over to our website. This picture, I'm sure you can't even tell what that's supposed to be. Probably just looks like some boxes. I don't know, can anyone read any numbers in there? Yes, no, maybe.
Nope, not from here.
All right, so I'm actually going to click over to our website for a few minutes. Let me share. So we have a website. Just expand this a little bit. Sorry, ignore that. where we have observing. So that's where the map would be, lists all our observing sites and the different times where we meet with that. We have lectures, I just mentioned those. We have like a whole, one of these got postponed, another was canceled, but one we did have, so I'll talk about that in a little bit. We have classes, which I'll talk about. I guess it's not, I think there's a link on the main page, but the calendar, there's a Google Calendar of our events that you can subscribe to. So this is the AAA calendar. Notice a lot of stuff is canceled. Ignore everything past June 1 because we just haven't canceled it yet. But then there's this tiny link, which I need to do something about, the Astronomy NYC calendar. So this is just kind of a resource for everyone in the community. We mainly have stuff that's around New York City. Times like this, it doesn't matter anymore because everything is online. But beyond what we have going for the Astronomers Association, we have just other events that might be free or small fee that are open to the public. So that's just kind of a resource that we have for the public. I think that was all I wanted to show on there. So go back to a couple slides. So all the fun things we do for the public. And then we do have some member-only events. So I mentioned we have the classes, we have socials. They often involve alcohol. And we have a very, very active astrophotography group. So I know Ted mentioned an image, and Misters of the Universe shared one of the images you've taken with of the comet. So we have a lot of folks who are very active in that as well. And they have meetups and classes and things. And we also do have trips that are members only to dark skies. So usually once a month or so during the summer, we go up to North-South Lake. So we have a relationship with the park up there. So we book some time where we can spend the night in one of the parking lots up there, and it's fabulous. It's always nice to actually see the Milky Way. So I don't get out of Brooklyn a whole lot because I don't have a car. It's another reason I wanted to go to Muddy Run. But yeah, it's a nice trip up there. So that's our member stuff. So March happened, and yeah, we've basically moved. I would say, relatively successfully moved almost all of our events, almost all of our initiatives online. We did have our first lecture ever online. It was kind of nice that people have asked us for a while, like, oh, can you stream the lecture? Can you record the lecture? And we just kind of haven't gotten around to it. So our March lecture was canceled, but we did have a fabulous speaker, Robert Coyne. And I'm actually gonna, I'll pop over there in a minute, who presented. So he's from University of Rhode Island, and he works with the LIGO research group. So he presented, so you can actually see that presentation on our YouTube channel, which I'll bounce over to in a little bit. We had a class that was in session, and we had to transfer like within a week right over to Zoom. So that worked, and we have 2 classes running right now completely on Zoom. One of the classes is using Google Classroom to coordinate topics and share announcements. Usually we use Google Groups, so I'm sure you have like an email list where you communicate. So we have a couple different special interest groups. So those have been active still since the shutdown. And then we still have meetups. So this is from one of the astrophotography meetups. So they're still meeting up every week now. I'm actually in the astrophotography group. I just stepped in because I'm the president. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna pop in here and see what it's like. So we've basically moved our events online. The one thing we haven't moved online is the public observing, right? So I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. We also, have, maintained our social media presence. So we have the same tag, AAADOTORG. If you want to follow us, we are at AAADOTORG on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we have active accounts there, so people still know we're alive and well. The one thing you'll notice about you might be able to see with the astrophotography or with the YouTube page, that it's labeled astrophotography. And I'm actually going to go there now. Astrophotography. So because mostly the astrophotography group was using the YouTube site, so they had set up a YouTube site or a YouTube channel, I guess. Sorry, I don't know all the things. But we're going to be renaming it just Amateur Astronomers Association of New York, because we have started posting a lot more on there. So we have the lecture, and another thing that we've been doing, I've actually been hosting this AstroViz tour weekly on Thursday evenings. So I wanted to show you a little bit of the software that I've been using to do that. And just listening to Mistress of the Universe, I guess, is it Renee, or that's someone?
It's Denise.
Denise, okay. Listening to Denise present, like with Stellarium, just really fabulous. And actually, I want to encourage you to try and do like a live stream if you're not already doing some, because I think what you're doing here was amazing. And I'm sure like if you made that public, other people would be interested. So I don't know if you're already doing that, but if you're not, I encourage you to check that out.
Thank you.
So, so yeah, so I didn't know anything about like posting on YouTube, and I learned, I used a little bit of the OBS software for some other work that I do, but yeah, so we have like these different channels, different, you know, things people can do. They're not like, it's not like they're super packed or anything, but we do have that that extra kind of social media channel and that outlet that's available to people. So this is kind of the extent of our outreach right now, between the social media channels and some live streams. We have had, so the live streams that I host, and then I'm going to show you some of the software for, those are all just visualizations. But there have been a couple of our very intrepid observers and astrophotographers who've done a few live streams, actually streaming the view through their telescope. So we're trying to get more people to be able to do that, but that takes a lot of equipment, plus an internet connection, plus like getting everything set up and the weather. And, you know, we're in New York City, and, you know, I don't even have a view. I have like a balcony I can't even go out on. So there's very few people in the organization that can do that regularly, but a few people have, and it's been pretty great. So yeah, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I do want to share, stop share there, get that out of the way. Too many things here. Do want to share this software. So one, I use Stellarium. So if you watch any of those videos, I use Stellarium. I believe you're all familiar with Stellarium because you've seen it already here. And I think a lot of you may have seen OpenSpace as well. But actually, maybe I should just ask, have a lot of people seen OpenSpace? Yes, no, not really.
I think all their mics are turned off.
Oh, but you can say in the chat, yes, no. Okay.
Okay.
No, there's a no. So OpenSpace, this is what you're looking at right now. It's a visualization using real data. Right now we mostly have the Digital Universe Atlas loaded in there. Digital Universe is, oh, somebody drawing. Digital Universe is curated at the American Museum of Natural History, and OpenSpace, which let me just type the website here. You can download it for free. It's freeware. OpenSpaceProject.com. So if you go to OpenSpaceProject.com, you can download it. You do want to have like a pretty solid graphics card to run it. And I know I've heard from some of my friends who put it on their laptops, even like a MacBook Pro, and it was like really like shaky. So I'm running on an iMac, but if you have any kind of gaming computer, you should be fine. It's just the graphics card and a little bit of memory is kind of what you want to run this successfully. So yeah, so it's developed at AMNH, NYU, Utah, and somewhere in Sweden are the main partners working on that. And basically you can fly around the universe in 3D, which is pretty fabulous. So I use this for for part of my presentations when I'm doing the live stream, like I usually use Stellarium to kind of say like, oh, this is kind of what's gonna be up in the sky over the next week. And then this has been kind of my outlet where I just like fly off into the universe and show people cool stuff. So I believe one of the main developers and one of the software engineers, Carter Emmert, who is our director of astrovisualization at AMNH, and Mike and Sinapurna, who's one of the software engineers. I believe they've been to Philly at least twice, I think, to run this in the planetarium there. So maybe
Carter came down one time and did it for us, and was probably one of the highest rated speakers that year for our club. Because we don't have anybody trained to go in 3D, and since nobody has time in the planetarium to practice that, they just stick with the flat sky.
Okay. Yeah. So practicing like on a computer screen is going to be a little bit different from practicing full dome. But if you do have like a computer at home that can hack it, you know, you can practice, and then, you know, not if but when the planetary is open back up, then you could maybe get yourself hired doing that. So yeah, so I'll just do like kind of a quick, I don't know how much, if there's any requests, I will take any requests anywhere in the universe.
I was looking down there at that Magellanic Cloud. Can you actually go out to the clouds, or, you know, and are they a 3D model when you get there?
Right. So I don't think I can target them, but we can pull out and do, so there's like kind of a Milky Way sphere. So they're kind of stuck on the sphere, but we can pull out, here's a fun thing. It's one of the things that I like. So yeah, we'll go check out the clouds. But first, let me turn on the constellation lines. I love pointing out that the constellations are all the same throughout the solar system because the stars are really, really far away.
Right.
So oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, they're going to change, aren't they?
Oh yeah. So as you zoom out, we get into, because Ted's been in our planetarium, you've seen this like 100 times. They do change, and you notice they're color coded. So the zodiacal constellations are red, most of them are salmon, and then Orion and Ursa Major are that darker blue. But yeah, we start to see like the close stars. So I think this is Sirius, B Alpha Centauri. Pull out even further. And I'm just going to skip like trying to fly through a cluster. So you can actually fly. Earlier today, I was practicing flying through the Beehive cluster for a presentation I'm doing in June. You can fly out through like the Pleiades or the Hyades. It's really cool. And then I hope I didn't turn everything off. Oh yeah, no, okay. And the one thing I can't do on my iMac, because I think it's like a Mac thing, I can't load the Gaia data on here. Even now, it looks like my connection is a little slow, a little shaky. I'm just going to close down some other applications and see if that helps at all. Hoping yes. So yeah, so that's our Milky Way. And if I turn on, there's the local group. So the Magellanic Clouds are part of the local group. But they don't have like, well, actually they do have the spheres. If we have to do a few settings. Actually, what I'm going to do while I'm doing all this mess, so you can get it kind of an idea. So it's really pretty. I'm showing you the pretty view, which is normally what I would show people. But since I'm trying to like advertise and kind of like get you more interested in using this, I'm going to share the GUI. So here's GUI View. And I'm not the best at navigating the GUI View, but this is our local group. And really what I think I want to do is just go to the universe. So we have galaxies in there, and there's a Milky Way image I think I need to turn on. And then the Milky Way volume gets weird out here. So I'm going to turn that off. Our Milky Way still looks weird, but we'll click back and I'll show you that in a minute. But I'm going to turn on the Tully galaxy images because I think those show up as part of the local group. And I want to make them bigger. So there's a couple scales. I don't think it's that scale factor. I want the scale factor. Okay, that's way too big. Okay, that's still pretty big, but whatever. Okay, so we have like these massive command trees and these massive object trees, but it's, once you get used to it, it's not so bad. So it might be a little intimidating, but really it's like, oh, here's the solar system, step in the solar system. And then like, oh, there's a bunch of planets, neat. And then you click on a thing, it's like, okay, yeah, Jupiter. And there's like, wow, that's a lot of stuff. But once you get used to it, it's not so bad. It's not as intimidating. So let me actually take you back to the pretty view.
It looks intuitive. You'll find your way through.
Somewhat, yeah. So, I mean, that's the thing is we've been working with, where's our Milky Way? Yeah, so the Milky Way disk is off right now. I'm not sure why it's off. I feel like it shouldn't be off. Oh, there we go. Now we can see the Milky Way. So the disk of the Milky Way is enlarged. I think all of these are enlarged a bit. But yeah, I think the large and small Magellanic Clouds, they're enlarged like 42 times. But there they are. That's the SMC. So this is, it's a little bit of a mess. But we can pull away from the green dots. So that's basically all the dwarf galaxies. So who knew there were so many dwarf galaxies of the Milky Way? Well, people studied dwarf galaxies knew. And then I'm going to turn off some of the other Tullys for now and just leave our local group on because there's way too much in here. Milky Way Tully. So I'll just leave the dots. So there's our kind of grouping, and then over here we have the Andromeda grouping in blue dots, right? So they're Andromeda, M31, M33, Andromeda Triangulum, very much exaggerated images, but the little dots are basically scaled. And if we zoom in close enough, you should be able to see like any of the labels. So you can kind of see these two clumps of galaxies, like our clump and Andromeda clump. That's our local group. And then we move out further into this other data set. It's the Tully data set. It's like 30,000 galaxies. And if I turn those dots on, I'll just turn off the images for now. Anybody want to guess what this bright red patch is? This huge cluster? Anybody?
Back in the core?
This one? So all of the dots out here now are galaxies.
Okay, right. Oh, Virgo supercluster.
Yes, that's the Virgo supercluster. So M87 is in there, and you know all of the others that you probably can see really nicely from your dark skies. So that's a little bit of what the open space can do. You can load in special data sets, but I like using this. It's like a 2D planetarium, I guess. Just kind of have it on your desktop. And I just realized that there was one other thing that I wanted to show you.
Irene, is it touchscreen sensitive? Like if I had it on a computer with a touch screen, could you just like rock and roll with your finger?
I don't know, maybe. I mean, I guess because I'm able to control it in the view screen or
Right.
in the GUI.
Right.
So maybe.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
I mean, really you want to have like a three click mouse, 3-button mouse.
Okay.
To have the control, because you're zooming in, you're zooming out, and you're rotating and like flip turning and all the things.
Okay.
Turning around. So you have a lot better control with a mouse. But just one last thing that I promised I would get to, and then I'll let you get to your meeting, your social socialization.
This is the meeting. You
okay.
feel free to keep going.
If you haven't started drinking, feel free to start drinking.
Right.
But yeah, so that's kind of how we're trying to do some outreach in our social distancing world. Having some live streams, having still socials through Zoom for the group, but then producing these live streams that people can plug into, and then just having the calendar curated for other events online that astronomy people might be interested in. So we've talked a little bit within our group just about like what reopening could look like for us, because again we feel like we provide an not essential service, okay, but we provide an important service in promoting the study of astronomy, which is a science. And I think anyone here would have a problem with me saying that we could use a little more science in our country, science awareness, science literacy. So having us out there in a safe, obviously in a safe way, in a legal way, would be great. So to do that, we're looking at establishing protocols and posting those on our website, and then distributing them among our observers as well. And this is just for public observing. For private observing or observing within our groups, that's going to be, you know, again, kind of a little bit different because we can bring our own gear, then we're not sharing gear or anything. But as far as like having public viewing, like we're a little ways off from that. So we do have a couple people that have been tasked with, you know, looking at best practices and thinking about what kind of protocols we would need to have in place when we're allowed to, you know, leave our homes and meet in small groups and things like that. So we'd have to, you know, have really strict protocols and make sure that that's communicated clearly to the community as well as our observers, ensuring that our observers have all the equipment that they need, like any masks, wipes, gloves, tape, you know, for marking off, like you have at the grocery store, probably 6 feet for people to be in line, and a sign to post like any protocols, like any requirements, like if you are not wearing a mask, you cannot be in this line kind of thing or whatever. So having all that at any observing sites that would be open, and then just keeping the calendar up to date, because things could change very quickly, and just trying to keep everyone up to date on where we are and what we're doing. So that's all I have so far on that, because, you know, we don't know when we might be able to do this again, but we have already started thinking about what could that look like. So I'm happy to take any questions or any other requests for an open space. Otherwise, I'll just let you into social hour, I guess.
We have one more before. I was going to end off.
Oh, okay.
But Renee has to give me a host. I can't bring my picture back on.